This program is made possible in part by the Moving Image Trust Fund.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. Physicist, astronomer Neil deGrasse Tyson holds almost as many earned advanced degrees as honorary doctorates. He's on television more often than many anchors, always by popular demand. He's the director of the world-famous Hayden Planetarium, but he's best known to the greatest number of Americans, Arkansans included, as host of the PBS series NOVA ScienceNOW. In the academic and public policy arenas, he is recognized as a tireless, forceful advocate for science education and research and the money needed to bring it about. Since March, a new series on the Fox network, a new series with a familiar title and familiar theme, Cosmos. Dr. Tyson, thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Let me start. You are perhaps, maybe right now, no kidding, the best known messenger of science to a broad public audience. And the first thought I had was, are your colleagues resentful? I mean, you're doing something that's very dangerous. You're making science understandable to a broad audience, and I'm wondering if they're resentful of you.
I think in Carl Sagan's day, there was some sort of blood on the tracks, where he felt compelled to bring the fruits of scientific research and the frontier that excites a scientist to the public. And he had many motivations for that, but among them was most of the science that I do and others of my colleagues do are derived from tax-based sourced monies. So the National Science Foundation or NASA. If you're a biologist, maybe you get grants from the National Institutes of Health. And if you, the taxpayer, are paying for the research I do, I should feel obligated to then share the wonders of what I do with you, so you know how your money's being spent. Carl Sagan took that to heart, and in his day it was an odd thing to do, because you're not, in science you're not rewarded for reaching for the public. Why are you speaking to the public when you should be in the lab? And these are the questions that were put forth, and the friction that would have unfolded. In today's time, at least my field knows and understands the value of this, because all boats rise when the tide goes up. So as best as I can determine, when I'm doing it is embraced by my colleagues rather than resented by them.
An odd thing you say that Mr. Sagan did, Dr. Sagan did, but also an enormous popular success. It seemed to demonstrate that there is, in fact, a significant audience.
Yeah, you raise an important point. It's one thing to just bring it to the public, but that doesn't mean they'll be interested. It doesn't mean they'll come back for more. There's got to be some other kind of sort of communion between the deliverer and the receiver of this information. And what I learned upon seeing the original Cosmos, I was already shaped knowing that I would be studying the universe professionally. So I didn't learn astrophysics from that series, but what I did learn was that the public had an appetite for a scientist who would be sort of sitting next to you on the living room couch, describing the universe for you and telling you why it matters and where you fit in the middle of it all. And that kind of bedside manner, fireside manner, I realized if I were ever going to be tasked with bringing the universe down to earth, it was clear to me that that was the way to do it. And yes, I think it awakens curiosity in us all. If it's done right, there are people who, there are those who already know they like science. We got them. Then there are those who don't know that they like science. That's a flame you just light, and then it's sort of self-driven. And then there's a whole other sort of demographic, the people who are sure they don't like science. They might have had a bad experience with a teacher, or and so they're a little more of a challenge, but if you present the science and all of its sort of the majesty of discovery and the awe and wonder that comes with it, I think, as Andrewian, the lead writer of the series, says, all you need is a beating heart. And this series will reach you. That had me thinking, well, do zombies have beating hearts?
Yeah, well, that's one way to get them into the tent, I guess.
Okay, exactly.
These days, anyway. But it's kind of ironic, isn't it? People, there are a subsect of people who don't appreciate science, or think they don't appreciate science, don't know they appreciate science, even as they turn on the lights. If you want to go back to Edison's
and they talk
time,
on their cell phone,
right? And they scratch or they look at a centuries-old, decades-old polio scar or immunization scar, smallpox. That's what the word is. And they turn on water, which is purified through scientific means, and they're tough nut to crack anyway.
It could be that science needs more PR, all right? Because, you know, maybe you need to be reminded every morning of everything you touch that had been touched by science and its close cousin, technology.
How do you not touch something that's touched?
You don't not touch. I get the
science or tech, yeah.
You don't not touch something that was not touched by science.
Yeah.
Don't not touch it. So perhaps there needs to be some reminder. I think if you go back into the 1960s, in that era, the achievements of science and technology were writ large in headlines across the page. We went from Mercury to Gemini to Apollo. We had just come off of having broken the sound barrier. And the achievements were large, and there was a frontier getting advanced. Even though it was militaristically driven, the Apollo program, in spite of the rhetoric that we recite for ourselves in the Kennedy speeches, in those very same speeches are the anti-communism battle cries that led to Congress signing the checks. But nonetheless, no matter where you were in school, you knew that science and technology was inventing tomorrow. And the World's Fair as one example of this mood and attitude of the era. Now, without a large project occupying the headlines, yes, you get the next app for your smartphone. So we're kind of app happy now. But when I think of a tomorrow, I think of innovations in energy and transportation and health, in city designs, in home designs, in things that completely shape a world. That's something that I don't feel is out there. I don't feel that America is the innovation nation that it once was. And without these headlines, you're not reminded of the value of science and technology, and I think we just become complacent and take it for granted. Other countries are not. They are jumping all over it, and they will pass us by, rendering us looking like we're going backwards just by standing still.
Well, as you noted, a lot of your work anyway, and a lot of work both in the physical and the biological sciences is government funded, taxpayer funded. You have been a ferocious advocate for increasing that, and yet you run into political resistance because we've got sequesters underway, federal budget sequesters. There's no dream of a tax bill. Everyone is debt and deficit absorbed. The outlook for that isn't terribly encouraging.
Yeah, a point I made on another sort of appearance on television, I was concerned. I think there was some impasse in Congress that was the prevailing news of the day. And I just looked to see what professions each member of Congress had, and it averaged out to about 50% of all of them were attorneys. Professionally, that's what they were trained to be. And if you look at what attorneys do, they're like trained arguers, right? So if we are opposite sides of a case, I don't know any case where I've argued so well that you say, you know, you're right, I agree with you. Let's go out and have a beer now. No, that just doesn't happen. You will stick to your side of the case no matter what. And so what does that mean? Is that who you want creating legislation? When you fold on top of it partisanship. I don't mind partisanship, but if that's on top of a community of people who are already trained as arguers, should we be surprised that Congress rarely agrees on things that are really important, that can take us into the future? So, you know who does have to make hard decisions? Scientists and engineers and business people. Business people make hard decisions every day. And When two scientists don't agree with one another, either one is wrong, the other is wrong, or both are wrong. And both scientists know this. That's the difference. They say, okay, maybe there's data we can obtain that'll resolve this difference. Let's look for the data rather than argue, see who argues the loudest. So if I were to cite something that may be a flaw in the system, it's we are electing people to office who do not have training in agreeing, in agreement, coming to an agreement. They're trained to win their case. And they're celebrated for the highest paid attorneys are the ones that win. And whether they're right or not is irrelevant. That's a secondary. Whether it's the good or bad, that's secondary. What matters, and tell me if I'm mischaracterizing it. I think that's how that works. And by the way, I don't blame Congress. Notice what I said deep in there. I said, who do we elect? At the end of the day, it's the electorate elects Congress. So if someone says, what do you have to say about this member of Congress who has these views on these topics? I'll say, I have nothing to say. That member of Congress presumably was duly elected by a district or by a state. And so the issue is with my fellow countrymen. And as an educator, I'd rather speak to the electorate and not to the members of Congress, because they're the ones who vote them in. So if they are enlightened as to how science works and why and how it can shape our future, then they will not vote someone into office who's otherwise clueless about how any of that works.
Well, is yours then a rate of return argument in terms of budgetary matters?
Oh, so budgets. Well, so
okay.
So getting back to your budget point. Sorry, I'd sidestepped that. With NASA, I on many occasions suggested that NASA's budget get doubled to 1% of the federal budget. Right now, it's 0.5%. Now, what's intriguing about that
50 cents on the federal dollar?
No, 1/2 of 1 penny on the federal dollar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would be 1/2 of 1%.
I'm sorry, I had to
double it to a penny. Okay. Now, that's someone, upon hearing me say this, sent me a dollar bill in the mail, and with a Sharpie, put a line on it that had the thickness of 1/2 of 1% of the width. So you get to see visually how much of your tax money this is going to. So for me, what's intriguing is if you ask people how much do they think NASA is getting out of the federal budget, with all the visible projects that NASA has, the rovers, the Curiosity rover and the Hubble telescope, and back when we did it, send astronauts in the shuttle and all of this, and the centers and Goddard and Kennedy Space Center. They say how much? They tell you 10%, 10% of the budget, and then you tell them it's 1/2 of 1%, and they can't even believe it. What that tells you is that NASA's spending is extraordinarily visible. More visible than anybody else's spending, because people over-assess how much money they're getting. I said I want to start a new movement where federal agencies got the amount of money people think they're getting. If that were the case, NASA's budget would go up by a factor of 10.
Yeah, sort of like foreign aid. I mean, people say it's 30% of the budget, 50, whatever.
Right. They don't have an awareness of that. And if you do that, it becomes a force of nature unto itself, where NASA then can have ambitious goals, where let's go to an asteroid or back to Mars or the far side of the moon, and these, if you're advancing a frontier, become headlines writ large. And it's the headline effect. Papers write about what's important, you respond to it in an important way. And once you see that science and technology is advancing a frontier, and there's spin-offs derived from it, as well as the influence on us, on our creativity, on our scientific and technological creativity. This is the innovation nation that I'm describing. If you're advancing a frontier in space, then here on Earth, whether or not you're involved in space, your awareness of innovation is a daily thought.
But is that too abstract, do you think?
Excellent point. It's just enough abstract that you can't describe it as an A goes to B phenomenon. Because here they say, oh, we want more scientists, so let's make more science teachers. Okay, we got that. We need better science students, so let's change the curriculum of that. Well, we got that. And everybody's thinking that it's the A goes to B, you put in some money, and you solve it. What I'm describing is more subtle than that, because it involves culture. It involves, what kind of culture are you living in? Is your culture, when the asteroid comes, oh, run? Is that your culture? Or, you know, buy toilet paper, you know, buy whatever people buy when some disaster is coming. Is that your culture? Or is your culture, the asteroid's coming, how can we deflect that? Oh, here comes a tornado. I saw a tornado shelter door in this building. Here comes a tornado. Run, jump into the shelter. Or let's figure out a way to tap the cyclonic energy of that weather system and drive the energy needs of this studio. And then we suck the energy dry out of the tornado and it destroys nothing. We're the people who are trying to think that up. We're the people who happen to live next to a volcano. Volcano is rumbling, gurgle tummy, and run. Or, you know, we can tap a keg. Why can't we tap a volcano? There's a lot of energy in there. You know, so when you realize what is possible technologically, culturally, it influences every other aspect of your life. And that's not an A to B thing. And that takes longer than an elevator ride to describe to a member of Congress.
Congressman A, Senator B are saying, this is wonderful stuff, Dr. Neil Tyson, but I got to work with a budget. And why don't we let the private sector do all this? I mean, you've got whole corporate departments devoted to R&D.
Yeah,
we got Silicon Valley. Why can't the private sector pick up this R&D slack?
Yeah, they can't. They can't. It's not possible. And as far as I can tell, I'm the only one saying this. So let me make sure my argument is presented clearly and cleanly so that if it gets repeated, it's done accurately out there.
No editing here. Go ahead.
So the ROI, return on the investment of what I just described, if you create an innovation nation, you have an entire generation of people rising up through the educational pipeline who are saying to themselves, I want to be the one who designs the airfoil that'll navigate the rarefied atmosphere of Mars. I want to be the one who cuts a hole in the ice in Europa and looks for fish swimming around in an ocean of water that's been there for billions of years, kept warm by Jupiter. And these dream states are huge. And they bring out the best in people because the motivation is the grandest kind of motivation that exists. It is breaching the unknown. What else are you going to do? You're going to stand in front of a room and say, we have energy needs today, so I need you to be an aerospace engineer to design an airplane that's 20% more fuel efficient than the one we flew. Maybe that intrigues some people. But if I go and say, I need one to fly on Mars, I'm getting every one of them. And I'm going to get the best of them. And you know this in your heart. All right, so those folks then enter society and they innovate and they invent, because that's the only kind of culture they know how to live in. And innovations in science and technology in the 21st century are the engines of tomorrow's economy. If a nation wants to invest in itself, that's how you do it. Now, why doesn't the private sector do it? Private sector has to make a quarterly report and an annual report, whereas countries want to be around forever. So a country has in principle, can have the luxury of a long baseline of foresight for what the return on that investment will be. A corporation, here's the problem. To advance a space frontier, first it's expensive, we know that. It's dangerous, and has unquantified risks if you're advancing a frontier. So here I am, I want to go to Mars and I want to send people. Nobody's done it before. But I'm a business person. I say, okay, who's with me? And you're a venture capitalist, and you say, how much does it cost? I don't know, but a lot. Is it dangerous? Yeah, and people will probably die. What's my return on investment? I haven't figured it out yet. You're walking to the next booth, leaving me high and dry. There is no business model to do something expensive, dangerous, and unquantified first. The first Europeans to the New World were not the Dutch East India Trading Company. It was Columbus, funded by a country. And the country had the vision statement. And Queen Isabella didn't say, oh, go and smell the roses and come back and tell us what they smell like. It was, here's a satchel of Spanish flags. Wherever you go, plant them in the name of Spain. And once the trade winds were mapped and the coastlines were drawn and who the hostiles are and the friendlies and can you eat the fruit on those trees, once all that's described, then commerce kicks in. And one of the most fertile trade routes after the Far East was the New World. That came after the fact. And the history of this exercise continues to retell just that kind of story.
Are we nurturing the scientists? How are we doing on science education? There are a lot of people who believe we could be doing an awfully lot more.
Yeah, no one had to say, while we were going to the moon, how are we doing on science education? We need special programs to get people interested in science. No, there were programs to guide interest, but not to create an interest. You didn't have to create an interest. We felt threatened. Russia had Sputnik flying over our heads. And it wasn't just an innocent satellite. The reason why people went ballistic, no pun intended, was that the shell of the Sputnik vessel is the housing of an intercontinental ballistic missile. They took out the missile and put in a radio transmitter. But the message was clear. They can fly something over our head. We freaked out. And people were climbing over each other to become physicists and engineers in that era. I claim, now I don't want war to be the driver here, but if you have big grand visions that a nation takes on, you influence what people want to be when they grow up. And then you don't have to sit there and twist people's arms to get them to like science. They'll want to do it more than you wanted them to do it in the first place.
But in creating that environment where the physical, biological sciences all can flourish, just basic scientific literacy in the early grades, in the junior highs and the high schools, are we falling short?
Yes. Yes, we're 25th or something among developed nations and even some rising nations. And there's only so long you can sustain that before you just might as well pack up and move back into the cave. I think we've sustained a competitiveness for longer than earlier predictors had suggested. And I think it's because, first, there's a period in there where we were accepting immigrants who wanted to study science and engineering. And we had such great opportunities for them, they stayed. So that works. You don't have to be born American if you take your ingenuity and keep it here. But then their home countries started to rise up in opportunity. This is what we would previously have called the third world countries. They are rising up, now they're called developing countries, rising up, great opportunities for wealth and prosperity. They'll come here, get educated, then they go back. And now they go back and become those who educate their next generation. So I foresee a time where the graduate schools of America no longer are populated by those brilliant people from the developing nations. And we're not putting Americans in their stead. And so, yeah, we'll just fade. Unless we have some driver, some force of nature. And I see NASA, if you got a better idea than NASA, I'm listening right now. But NASA on the frontier, needing biologists to search for life, and chemists to think of the soils in which life would flourish, and geologists, we would call them planetary geologists on that scale, aerospace engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, the entire STEM portfolio, science, technology, engineering, math, is writ large in the NASA vision statement. I don't know any other force that can operate that way.
Do you believe that there is...
I don't believe anything.
Do you
believe would be, okay, I think this is true, but I don't have any evidence.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do you suspect?
Suspect. That's a better word.
All right. Do you suspect, do you hypothesize that perhaps there is abroad in the land a very real fear of where science is? I mean, you know, we're not just mapping the genome, but I mean, the notion of cloning. Even in this, we've got a couple of minutes remaining. Periodically, you have evolution pitted against the biblical creationism. We're back in the courts all over again. And
yeah, that's so. This is a free country. It's a free country, or at least we tell ourselves that.
Faith, faith, religion, and science continue to collide.
Yeah, if you think that you can successfully get science out of your religious text, that is a sign that the educational system is failing. It's just that simple. We live in a country where where you have freedom to express your religion. And that's great. Some of the most important people who helped to found America came from a country where they couldn't express the freedom of religion. So that's great. So fine. Just because that's going on in your religion doesn't mean it is science. That's my only point here. Galileo knew this. He said the Bible tells you how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go. He was the first to recognize this split between the value of Scripture for your spiritual enlightenment and the value of using your cognitive faculties to decode the operations of nature. And so, and by the way, there's no history of scientists and not even atheists knocking down the Sunday school door, telling the preacher, that might not necessarily be true, picketing outside the church. It's a sacred place, literally and figuratively. But you have now strongly religious people trying to knock down the science door and tell the science people what to teach. By the way, in a free country where the federal government doesn't control education, that's local, because it's not specified in the Constitution, you have the right to vote in a school board who teaches biblical accounts of the natural world as a substitute for science. If you do that, and by the way, you have the power to do that in a free country.
Until you get caught at it anyway.
No. It's not caught. There's nothing about caught. If you do it, you can do that. You can do that. You control the edge, or you can pull your kids out and train them yourself. If you do that, they will not. There will be a generation of your young ones who will not actually know what science is. They will have a distorted sense of what the methods and tools of science are and how they operate in the natural world. And those are the engines of discovery, of progress in our health, in our, like I said, our energy needs, and that's where you get this from. And so what would happen is your culture will stagnate. That's just what will happen.
Our one dimension that we work on is up, at least our share of it for right now. Dr. Neil Tyson, thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.
This program is made possible in part by the Moving Image Trust Fund.